All right, let's do this next one.
Polaris, Hail, Queen of Mutants, is a 4-cost shield. She's an X-Men affiliated character. She has a 1/2/2, 2/3/4, and a 2/5/5 stat line. And then she reads, while active, each player may only use one global ability each turn.
Oh, yes, this is a fun card.
This is a jerky card.
I like this one a lot. This is really, really good in higher level play. Globals are so prevalent in this game. You're not going to play a game without a global very often unless you're playing a limited casual or draft format. And a card that limits their use to 1 is a solid control option, particularly if they want to ramp via globals.
Yeah, this is. It was funny actually. I was watching the Dice Tower review of this, and Tom Vassell was like, "Oh, so she limits globals to once per turn, but like, who really cares?" I was like, "Well, you don't play competitive Dice Masters because everyone cares." This is just the worst card. Like, I hate. I mean, I hate all that, and it's interesting, right? Because something like the Rare Wrecker didn't see play.
It didn't,
as much
and
as I thought it would.
that affected my original rating of this card because I thought to myself, well, let's think. What cards that already do something like this see play? And I thought to myself, well, really, that record didn't, and there weren't a ton of other ones. But then I thought to myself, but Oracle saw play. It was a 4-drop, and it made the globals cost 1 more. Now, which is better, making globals cost 2 so your opponent can trigger 1, or just saying that your opponent can trigger 1? They're very, very similar, and there weren't a ton of other upsides on that Oracle in comparison to this. So if that saw play, this has a real chance to see play too.
The key difference, though, is that this affects both you and your opponent, which is why the Wrecker, I think, didn't see play, whereas the Oracle specifically just stopped your opponent from doing them.
That is true.
I think you need to really, really have a team that suits not having any globals. That's just not my playstyle at all. I love having globals. But if you're a person who doesn't like globals, this is the combo. Polaris, Hell Queen Mutants with the uncommon Blackbird global, which says pay 1, target global ability cannot be used until the start of your next turn. Use this global ability only once per turn. If this is the global you're willing to use as your 1 global, your opponent is screwed because they either can pay the Blackbird global to stop you from using the Blackbird global on them next turn as their 1 global, or they can do their 1 global that you will probably turn off. And they're just stuck.
Yeah, turning off for the rest of the game. Yep. Yeah. Or at least on that version of the global. Unless they Blackbird global, the Blackbird global.
Yeah, but then they've used their 1 global.
Yeah, as their 1 global, and then they have to wait till it comes back around, and they have to either Blackbird global. Anyway, it becomes very impossible for them to use globals.
The thing with the Blackbird is it helps X-Men. It's an X-Men designed card, right? It says X-Men character dice you control cannot be targeted by global abilities or action dice until the start of your next turn. And it's a 2-cost shield, so it fits really well with this 4-cost shield X-Men character.
That being said, I don't think it's the end-all be-all of control pieces.
Well, I gave it an A-. And that's because of my reading of where the meta is at. If you think of what I think is going to be good in the upcoming Nats event, they all rely on using more than 1 global per turn. Almost all the teams. So Fix-It relies on doing more than 1 global a turn. Anything to do with Clayface and Kree Captain, that's 2 globals you have to use. Anything with the new Iceman, where you need to ping it a bunch of times, like the new Nova. Gold Dragon needs a bunch of globals to run with the Mimic.
Yep.
And Ring Winter. The only thing I don't think you need is the Collector. I don't think you need that many globals to run it. I'm giving it an A- just to respect it, so that when I come up against it,
you say you can...
won't be too mean. I'm preemptively being like, oh yeah, you're really good, just leave me alone.
I gave it a B+ because I feel like it's just slightly lower than what you're saying, but I could see all of your arguments as valid, and you're probably more right than I am. The next Polaris is Lorna Dain. It's a 4-drop shield character. It says when Polaris is fielded, corrupt 2. So it's a when fielded effect, which is pretty cool for corrupt. The unfortunate thing is you've got to pay 1, 2, or 2 to field it. And then if you want to corrupt more than once, then you have to cycle this, which means you have to bring a cycling mechanic. Or you just push with this willy-nilly and hope it gets either KO'd or goes through for some damage. But if you're pushing with a 2/2, you're not really pushing that much damage, and you're just hoping for it to be KO'd by your opponent. Corrupt is not, to me, powerful enough to warrant a 4-drop with bad fielding costs, so I gave this a C-. but I could see going even lower than that. What about you?
I agree. It's just the fielding costs are just really prohibitive for a when fielded effect. She's just too expensive.
I agree. Polaris, Strange Stirrings Within, the final version of Polaris. This one is also a 4-drop. All of them were X-Men affiliated, and this one says, while active, when an opposing action die targets you or a character die you control, you may use a copy of that effect, and you may choose new targets for that copy. I want you to start off on this one, because you had some interesting commentary on it.
Yeah, I was a bit more hot on this than you were, I think. The first thing I should say about this is I like how non-specific it is. In the past, when we've seen stuff like this, it only works within affiliation, so they could have easily said, while active, when opposing action die targets your X-Men character die. I really like it. I think it's cool being able to use a second copy of an effect. It's pretty strong. The issue is what abilities can you use a copy of that target your opponent or target you or your character dice, because there's not that many.
No.
I had a few thoughts on this. Betrayal, I think, could be a big one, maybe going forward. And that's kind of cool, right? So if someone does betrayal to you, you can do it straight back with them.
Sure.
Confront the Mighty is kind of cool. And then Mjolnir was the other one I could think of. I think this fluctuates quite dramatically depending on what meta you're in. If everyone you play with loves using Powerbolt, this is a cool card to have.
That was one of the things that I considered when rating this card, is like, yes, I can bring this and then also bring my own copy of Magic Missile and then run Magic Missile and Powerbolt, and if my opponent buys it, then I get to use a copy as well. And that's pretty cool, but outside of exactly that scenario, this just doesn't have very much utility, because, yeah, if my opponent brings Betrayal, or if I bring Betrayal and then I get a copy, that's good. But Confront the Mighty, the only time like people really run that in a semi-competitive format is if they're running Rare Surtur, and at that point you get the proc, but then you don't get anything to go alongside Confront the Mighty, so it doesn't really do anything because all your characters have just died to Rare Surtur and there's nothing to confront. And then Mjolnir, you get to kind of ping a few things, but Mjolnir's never really been that solid when it comes to effects. You know, like you play it, and unless you're talking about the uncommon, where you're referring to the uncommon, where it just like hits you for however many bolts.
No, I was thinking about the one where you can do like
where it pops the 1, then the 2, then the 3.
Kind of cold extra stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but then we don't really see anyone buying that ever because it doesn't actually KO anything until the very last die.
Well, yeah, they're generally not on there for like that as the main purpose, but it also affects Billy Club, right, as well.
Sure, and so you would then be able to remove something. But again, all of those come back to like, those are not things that people rush out to buy and then use on you. And if they are, then you can oftentimes just buy the things that are better on your team and then just
if people are buying Billy
Club,
you're probably doing pretty good.
Yeah, and so for that reason, like, yes, you could run this on exactly like a Powerbolt and Magic Missile team and just try to win that way, but there are a lot better options for control pieces, which this feels like, and for win conditions, which this isn't even really on that tier. So for me, I gave this a D, just because yes, it does have some utility, but there are just not a ton of like things that target you or things that target your characters that people are really running.
Yeah, I gave it a B minus. I think I'm still gonna stick with that. I have a feeling that maybe this can. I'm giving it a B minus for what it could be rather than what it is currently.
So on future potential.
Yes, I guess so. I had a question. How would this interact with target lock?
It's a good question. Target lock targets the card, not a character die, so it doesn't actually trigger.
No. Does it work with Imprisoned?
I'm not sure. If it did and they reprinted Imprisoned, then we would have to look it up. But I would prefer to never talk about Imprisoned again. So let's just move on, because forget that card. All right, Rogue, Good Night Sugar. This is a 4-drop mass character, Brotherhood of Evil Mutants affiliated. A crazy stat line of a 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, 5, 2, 5, 6 stat line, which is not too unlike the Polaris stat line. And this one says when Rogue is fielded, corrupt 2. So it's again a when fielded effect, corrupt 2, with that sort of a stat line, and the same cost as that previous Polaris. They changed the energy type and the affiliation. Does that help this die at all? No, I gave this a D.
Playtesting, right? They must have been like, "Ooh, corrupt's really good," and we have to put it on like all these really expensive fielding characters.
That's possible, but I give this version of it a D.
Yeah, well, it's the same as we gave Polaris, right?
Yep. So we're consistent. Look at us go. Look at us. You gave it a D too, right?
Yeah.
The next Rogue is Rogue Mother Issues, a 5-drop mass character, X-Men affiliated, same stat line. This one has the infiltrate keyword, and it says, While active, your sidekick character dice gain Infiltrate. I think Infiltrate is pretty sweet in general. It's not the most powerful keyword in the world. It's kind of fun in general. It's a really cool keyword to play casual games with because it does put a new spin on the game in that you're giving your opponent a clock and you're saying, I'm counting down and you need to do something to stop it. Particularly when you're running the super rare Angela, which is a 4-drop and not this.
Yes, the super rare Angela is very good. The other super rare in that set, which was the Captain America, did exactly the same thing as this rogue, but it was 1 cheaper, and it gave your psychics +1 defense.
Correct.
And no one played that, so
they did not, and also very few people in comparison to whoever buys this box actually owned that card. But that being said, if you can buy the 4-drop that is an actual win condition versus a 4-drop that provides an extra sort of push, a win more card for that win condition, then what was the point? Whereas with this card, everyone has access to this. Everyone can slap together an Infiltrate team. All of your sidekicks getting a keyword in general is pretty good. And if everyone can play with something, generally it's going to rise in popularity in comparison to sort of being handcuffed behind almost like a paywall. Like you had to pay to get those 2 super rares and then mess with them, versus now it's literally just a card in the box that everyone can mess with. And for that reason, I gave this a B, because it's a win condition on a team that a lot more people will give a shot than they could before, unless you just kind of proxied those cards, which isn't really a popular thing in Dice Masters.
No. I can see your reasoning. I don't disagree. I don't think the ability is that strong. People are just going to block your sidekicks. So I gave it a C.
I could see that.
I think in draft or limited, this is super good.
That's true too. It's a win condition, a great win condition in limited or draft, because all of a sudden a lot more play around abilities are hidden, The final rogue is Rogue Southern Comfort, a 4-drop mask character. This one says Infiltrate, and it says when Rogue uses Infiltrate, deal an additional damage.
I do not like this one particularly. I think this was on a black... No, what was it on in the Guardian set that gave an additional damage? It was exactly the same text as this. Why would you use it?
It was the Gamora Black Sheep that gave an additional damage when she used it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, this I don't like it at all. You're paying a lot to field it. You're having to push with it on bottom level. It's just the same. I don't know. I don't like it.
I agree. I don't like it either. You gave it an F.
I just gave it an F because screw this card. I don't know. Screw 4-cost infiltrators that don't do anything. Like you have Super Angela, you have a 2-cost beast in this set, which is infiltrate. That's good. Ricochet 3-cost, which lets you prep a bunch of dice. That's super good. The 4-cost Black Widow, which does an extra for all your infiltrators. That's good. You don't need this in an infiltrate team.
I'll hop on the bandwagon and I will give it an F too. Let's do it.
Come
Solidarity for the F. There you go.
You're never going to look at this card, because why would you look at this card? There's so many better options for infiltrate.
Yes, and because they have not rotated out Guardians of the Galaxy, then there's no reason to look at this until that is rotated, in which case then you look at it and then you kind of turn the page still.
Yeah, because infiltrate's gonna be terrible. Yeah.
All right, Sage, new character, Sage, Psionic Firewall. Oh my god, I almost said Farewell. It looks like Farewell on the card, but that's because I'm looking at an angle. Sage
here to save us.
Yeah, right. Sage, Psionic Firewall. I said it again. It's a firewall.
It's a firewall, yeah.
You read it. You'll probably say it better than I will. You go ahead.
Okay. Sage, Psionic Firewall. It's a 3-cost shield, X-Men affiliated. It's a 013, 023, 024. Love those zeros.
Yeah.
It says, while active, your opponent's non-psychic character dice costs 1 more to field.
Oh, yes.
What a great card. This is the best card in the set.
This is the best card in the set, and I'm looking at my rating and going, why is that still that low? Because this card is still, like, the more you think about this card, the better it gets. Which is weird to say because it's not a win condition, but it's one of those cards that if you've played a lot of Dice Masters, you know how much better this card is than some of the cards that we've seen before that. Yeah, this card is sick. So just being able to make all of your opponent's stuff cost 1 more to field just makes things so much more difficult for them on their turn. It just messes sort of with the economy of Dice Masters in general. Like, you're rolling 4 dice, and you're kind of assuming that If you're rolling a character of those 4 dice, then you're using 1 of the other dice to pay, which leaves you 2 to like use globals or to buy a 2-drop. But all of a sudden now, if you roll that character, then your entire turn is devoted to just fielding that character, and everything is set back a turn. And then it happens again, and everything's set back another turn, and then again and again. The snowball effect on something like this ability, is just so powerful that this card is sick.
But yeah, I mean, you're thinking about like low cost characters there as well. Like, what if you have like a fix it level 3?
Yeah.
You just prepped, like, you cycled that. So you set up for a turn 3 fix it on the board. You've bought the fix it. You prepped the 5, so you have 1 in your use pile, 4 in your bag. You draw all of them. If you roll that fix it on level 3, you're gonna have to pay all 4 energy to field it.
And then the bag just collapses. Yeah, this is really, really good and really, really strong. And I'm going to officially say that this is an A.
Ooh, I give it an A plus.
Ooh,
I'm
A+.
excited about this card.
So you're saying that this is a guaranteed see and play at Nats and Worlds.
I'm playing this. You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. This is on his team. Everyone get ready.
How many shield teams have been just missing a 3-cost shield since Namorita rotated out?
So true.
A controlled shield team with Bizarro. So here's my shield team idea. Well, it's not really my idea, but a shield team I've been working on for a while is the static field global, but with the fetid bloat drone, where it's a 5-cost shield. You attack and KO everything.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to punish your opponents for doing that. Here you go. Like, now you KO the whole field and they have to pay 1 more to field everything.
No, that's mean. Yeah, that's really good.
And every turn, then there's no way. There's no way they can keep up.
Well, even if you turn this into sort of an aggro variant of it with this card, which is a 3-cost and a 4/2 on top if you stat flip it.
Almost as good as the Nick Fury, right?
Yeah, like that's solid, man. This is a good card in a lot of different ways. It's flexible and powerful, and that's exactly why it should be an A.
Free to field, survives Breath Weapon 3, top level.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Let's talk about the next one, because this one might be pretty good too. This is Sage Photographic Memory. This is a 3-drop shield character. It says when Sage is fielded, corrupt 2. So a when fielded effect, you corrupt 2. And this is a 1/3, a 2/3, and a 2/4. So you still probably need some way to KO it, like an auto KO. But you can stat flip and then push with this, and you're sort of just threatening your opponent to not block it at that point. Because yes, it goes through unblocked, but you got to deal 3 or 4 when you stat flip this. And if they block it, which they likely are going to do with a sidekick, well, if it's on level 1, it KOs. And if not, then you're just removing things from their field each turn.
And it's free to field. Come on.
Yep.
When was the last time they did when fielded effect? It was free to field.
That's pretty good. I prefer this at a B, personally, because I think this is solid. I don't think Corrupt earns it a spot on Nationals and Worlds teams. But maybe it does just because it messes with the bag. Maybe, but I give it a B.
This is by far the best Corrupt we've seen so far. I like it a lot. I gave it a B as well.
And then finally, we have Sage Xavier's Mole, a 3-cost. This one has the... why did I just forget the name of this affiliation?
Hellfire affiliation.
That's right. It's the Hellfire Club affiliation. I forgot it when I was opening the box, too. I had to pause and open the rule book. It's like, what affiliate? Oh, yeah, that's right. It's the Hellfire Club. This one is when Sage is KO'd, corrupt 3. So instead of corrupting 2, draw 2 dice and then pick one of them to burn. You get to make the opponent, likely, draw 3 dice and then pick one of those to burn. So you have more of a chance of hitting something of value. And this triggers whenever you KO it, so you would probably want to handcuff this with a KO mechanic like a Malekith.
Yes, you would. Oh my days, this card's good. It's super good. Corrupt 3, like, just giving you that one extra choice, I think makes a big difference. And then it's just, when KO'd, it's so easy to trigger with this die. A stat flip again, you swing with it, they either take the damage or they block and you KO it, probably. There's a myriad of ways to KO. Fabricate's an easy way to KO. There's a ton of good ways to do stuff with this, and it's just repeatable. It's free to field, good stats, and buffed Corrupt. I don't know, it's really good.
It's really hard for me to pick between the two of them because a when fielded effect is super easy to, one, trigger because you don't have to pay anything for it, whereas this you would have to pay to KO this die if you're bringing your own KO trigger. So the when fielded effect wins in that scenario. You can like double the when fielded effect with things like, just for fun, with things like Absorbing Man, whereas you could double with Absorbing Man on this one too, but you're often more running the when fielded effect, doubling one. Whereas this one has a better corrupt ability because you can reach even further and land the die that you want to get rid of for that bag cycle. So they both really kind of go hand in hand. I think I would give this the exact same rating because I feel like they printed two cards that are both really powerful, that one works for one thing and one works for another, and you just kind of pick your poison. So I give this a B+.
I gave this one an A in comparison to the Photographic Memory, which I gave a B. I'm much more excited about this one. KO does cost to do it, but effectively you'd have to KO Sage anyway, the when fielded one. So I think they level out in that aspect. So you field one, you KO. The reason I like this one better and a whole step better is the Hellfire affiliation is unusual, which helps. The added Corrupt, so it's Corrupt 3 rather than Corrupt 2. And the fact that when KO'd abilities are almost impossible to stop, as opposed to when fielded. There's a bunch of ways to stop when fielded. There's not really a ton of ways to stop when KO'd.
That's a good point. Yeah, no, maybe I give this one a nudge up as well to account for those things, because as you said, I think the affiliation thing is something to really drive home too, because this can do unusual things with things that count affiliations, and it's cheap enough that you could consider it for some of those teams as well.
But then I guess with the teamwork basic action coming back out, maybe you want affiliations that match with other stuff.